To analyze the compounding pressures of 2025, we use a 4-quadrant polycrisis matrix. Today, we map the direct, real-time feedback loops between geopolitics and macroeconomics. On February 28th, joint U.S. and Israeli strikes initiated a direct kinetic conflict with Iran. A fragile ceasefire is currently under negotiation in Islamabad, but the geopolitical shockwaves have already altered global markets. The immediate tactical lever in this conflict is the Strait of Hormuz. By threatening commercial vessels, Iran engineered a severe maritime bottleneck. Daily maritime traffic through this global energy corridor dropped from over 100 ships per day down to exactly 12 ships. This chart shows the resulting volatility in Brent crude pricing. From a pre-war baseline of $70 per barrel, prices shot to $119, plunged back to $95 upon news of negotiations, and rebounded toward $100 as the ceasefire came into question. That energy shock translates instantly into domestic economic tightening. The anticipation of prolonged inflation pushed the 10-year Treasury yield up from 3.97% to 4.28%, increasing the cost of mortgages and corporate borrowing across the United States. The International Monetary Fund is actively revising global growth forecasts downward. Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva noted that debt-burdened emerging markets, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, are exceptionally vulnerable to this sustained contraction in energy supply. Corporate supply chains absorb the same mathematical reality. Higher jet fuel costs mean Delta Airlines faces a $2 billion increase in second-quarter operating expenses. United Airlines projects up to $11 billion in annual cost increases if these fuel prices persist. Airlines are offsetting these diminished margins by extracting more capital from consumers and constricting supply. Carriers are implementing new fees for basic economy seat selection, penalizing low-tier passengers with Group 7 boarding assignments, and strategically cutting scheduled flight capacity by up to 5%. A localized maritime blockade in the Middle East bypasses regional borders, instantly degrading economic forecasts and raising the cost of physical logistics worldwide. While the Iranian front pursues a ceasefire, the kinetic reality in neighboring regions continues to escalate. In Lebanon, the Israeli military executed a concentrated strike targeting more than 100 locations within 10 minutes, heavily damaging populated commercial areas like the Corniche Al-Masra intersection in central Beirut. The Lebanese Health Ministry recorded 182 dead and at least 890 wounded in that single barrage. In response, Hezbollah leadership explicitly rejected any return to the pre-March 2nd status quo, guaranteeing continued friction along the border. Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam condemned the escalation occurring concurrently with peace negotiations, pointing to a disregard for international humanitarian law in the targeting of civilian infrastructure. In Eastern Europe, Russian President Vladimir Putin unilaterally declared a 32-hour halt to hostilities to observe the Orthodox Easter holiday. This followed a proposal from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to temporarily pause strikes on energy infrastructure. Simultaneously, Ukraine is adapting to the broader systemic crisis by deploying its domestically produced interceptor drones to the Middle East, neutralizing the exact same Iranian-designed weaponry used by Russian forces. Unilateral holiday pauses and localized treaties lack the mechanical leverage to halt violence when proxy alliances and military technologies span multiple continents simultaneously. To understand how state actors project power without physical weapons, we activate the technology and information quadrants of the matrix. Pro-Iran groups are leveraging generative artificial intelligence to wage a highly targeted English-language propaganda campaign. This digital vanguard operates as an asymmetric warfare asset designed to fracture domestic support for U.S. and Israeli military operations. The network executing this campaign includes groups like Akbar and Fajari, who claim to be an independent collective of Iranian citizens. Their stated operational objective is disrupting decades of Western control over the global media narrative by injecting synthetic content directly into foreign feeds. Their outputs display a granular understanding of American pop culture and political division. A campaign deploys Lego-style animated rap videos, visual references to Jeffrey Epstein's investigative files, and hyper-specific memes designed to exploit fault lines within the MAGA political base. State-sponsored psychological operations have existed for a century, but the delivery mechanisms adapt to the era. Rather than broadcasting shortwave radio, adversaries now optimize synthetic media to trigger the algorithmic reward structures of Western social platforms. The economics of this strategy heavily favor the aggressor. Generating millions of algorithmic impressions through AI image generation costs fractions of a cent, whereas deploying a single physical interceptor drone costs millions of dollars. By bypassing the kinetic layer, nation-states can directly manipulate a rival superpower's electorate without needing to match their physical military supremacy. The automation of language and imagery is actively penetrating deeply personal sectors. Generative AI is being heavily commercialized within global religious and spiritual practices. The tech firm Just Like Me charges users $1.99 per minute to video chat with a synthesized avatar of Jesus. The model is trained on the King James Bible and historical sermons to generate customized, conversational spiritual guidance. Similar deployments are occurring across major belief systems. Magisterium AI utilizes a dataset of 2,000 years of Catholic teachings to answer theological queries, while researchers at Kyoto University trained BuddhaBot strictly on early Buddhist scriptures. This creates immediate philosophical friction. Pope Leo XIV warned about the technology's impact on human spiritual development, and Buddhist theologian Peter Hershock argues that automating guidance dangerously extracts the necessary effort from the pursuit of spiritual growth. The systematic extraction of value applies equally to secular culture. At the Coachella Music Festival, the appearance of spontaneous cultural celebration masks an environment structured entirely around the monetization of digital influence. Content creators monetize their attendance by utilizing integrated tools like YouTube Shopping to earn direct commissions on festival outfits, while negotiating strict brand sponsorships to fund their travel and logistics. What reads to an audience as an authentic weekend is the product of rigorous newsroom-style scheduling, complete with content matrices, calculated lighting setups, and real-time narrative adjustments. Whether it is a theological conversation or a music festival dispatch, modern cultural outputs are engineered, optimized, and distributed with the exactitude of a corporate supply chain. The physical domain of the public health quadrant reveals local biological infrastructure in active regression. In South Carolina, an outbreak of measles, a highly contagious virus, has surged to nearly 1,000 cases, surpassing last year's record outbreak in Texas. Infants too young to receive the MMR vaccine suffer the highest clinical vulnerabilities in these environments. This data visualization maps the mathematical breakdown of herd immunity across Spartanburg County. To stop community transmission, an area requires a 95% vaccination rate. Spartanburg has dropped below 90%, with one specific school reporting an immunization rate of just 21%. This regression is politically accelerated. Following public health cuts overseen by Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., state-level legislators like South Carolina Senator Carlisle Kennedy are advancing bills that would legally prohibit daycares from requiring vaccines for children under 2 years old. Decades of accumulated biological defense infrastructure are being dismantled from the inside out by local political skepticism and an ideological pivot toward hyper-individualism. In sharp contrast to localized systemic failures, nations continue to execute massive logistical and cultural triumphs on the world stage. Following their mandatory military service, the 7 members of the South Korean group BTS initiated a highly coordinated global stadium tour. Their comeback album Aryong debuted at #1 of the Billboard 200, generating hundreds of millions of dollars per quarter and projecting South Korean soft power globally. At the absolute apex of physical and technological capability, NASA successfully executed the Artemis II lunar flyby, sending 4 astronauts further from Earth than any humans in history. Navigating a 252,756-mile orbital trajectory required overcoming acute engineering challenges in real time, including internal propellant valve malfunctions and reliance on a modified atmospheric descent to protect the capsule's heat shield. Upon return, the self-flying Orion capsule hit the Earth's atmosphere at Mach 32, more than 23,000 miles per hour. The crew endured communication blackouts while riding inside a fireball that exposed the exterior shield to 5,000-degree temperatures before a precise Pacific splashdown. This matrix shows how the forces we have tracked today intersect in real time. Oil choke points dictate airline revenue, digital networks deliver psychological warfare and automated faith, and political friction rewrites biological baselines. We operate in a paradox of extremes. humanity possesses the capability to execute a Mach 32 lunar return and algorithmically synchronize global culture, yet our structural stability remains entirely vulnerable to an outdated biological pathogen or a 12-ship traffic jam in a distant strait.